Hello everyone. A request was made regarding volumetric lights and how to create ambience fog within a scene. So I thought I'd put together this short video to showcase how this is done. Basically, any light that is respected or that is recognized by the Arnold renderer will allow you to create fog within the scene being produced by the actual interaction of the light and an ambient material that you create, not material, an ambient particle that you create. You control this through the renderer. So here's how you would do this. Let me go ahead and create on this very simple scene. I am going to drop off a spotlight. And this spotlight is right here. Nothing that it's a regular spotlight, so it's not an Arnold light. And you can also do this with an Arnold light, but basically any light from the regular rendering environment that is respected by Arnold, as spotlights are, will work. So let me go ahead and change my view by selecting the spotlight. Let me change my view from perspective to that spotlight. And I'm looking at the world through the spotlight right now. Let me place it somewhere up here around a 30 angle degree. And that circle that you see is the area that is covered by my spotlight. So this is a fairly good position for the light. Let me switch that back to my perspective viewport so that I can see what this is from rendering from the perspective angle. Let me turn off my light so that I can see what is covering. And as you can see, that's the spotlight. I have put a floor where my light is going to be affecting. And then the scene. My floor is just a regular plane, so nothing magical. And this is a box with a hole in the front. So I am going to select the light from my outliner. I am going to change a couple of things here. I'm going to make the penumbra angle a little bit smaller so that I can get some feathering. And I am going to switch my rate decay from no decay to quadratic, which is basically going to turn it off as we saw in class. And then that means my intensity needs to be increased quite significantly. So let's increase that to about, I want to say 8,000, for example. And we get to see the light basically coming back on. So with that done, I am going to my Arnold dropdown. I want to make sure that I am casting shadows and that I have my volume samples set up to, this is fine, casting shadows, this has to be on, cast volumetric shadows, and this is a good point to start. The more samples that you add, the slower your render time will be. So be careful with that. You'll get more quality, but you'll get slower render time. Same thing with the volume under visibility, same amount of samples. So I'm going to leave these as they are right now. And I want to make sure that normalizes on. What I want to do now is I want to go to my Arnold renderer, turn it on. And so I'm going to get me an IPR of what I'm looking at. And you'll see that it's basically just the same thing that I'm looking at here, basically. When I increase the intensity of that light, I want to make that light about, let's say 11,000. Just want to get more lighting to the scene. You could also do that by compensating on your exposure. So if you increase your exposure by 1 f-stop, then that will also give you a little bit more light in it. Remember, I try not to use exposure as much as possible. I try to control through the intensity. It gives me more control. It's the same principle as if you were shooting a picture in real life with a camera. So with this setup, what I want to do is I want to add fog into this scene. The fog will take into account that I have a light, a spotlight projecting into the scene. So to do that, I will go into the render settings and I will go to my Arnold renderer tab. Make sure that I am under the Arnold renderer under my render options right here. And then I'll use the Arnold renderer. Then I am going to scroll down to my environment tab, and under environment tab, I'm going to use atmosphere. Now in the atmosphere, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the checker box and I am going to choose create AI atmosphere volume. So if I click on that, I see not much of a change on my scene, but that is because I have zero density on my fog on the actual atmosphere. Now this value is very, very delicate. And what I mean by that is just a 0.2 value will create significant amount of fog. Let me switch this to 0.005, which is a very small number. Now, as soon as I hit return, I start getting atmosphere into the fog into my scene. This fog will be affected by any light that I place within the scene. So if I add another light, let's say I'm going to add a point light, and I'm going to place that point light above the urn in my scene, and I'm going to switch the settings on that point light to from no decay to quadratic, and then I'm going to increase that, the value of that, to let's say 100, so that I can actually see it on the scene. I can see that this is also producing fog inside that room, and I can see it being projected on my model, as you can see on this image. Now you probably hear that humming in the background, and that's my machine basically cranking, and I am using very small volume levels. I mean, these are very small numbers for the amount of samples that I'm using. So remember, as you increase these values, your rendering quality will increase, but so will your rendering time. So this is something to play around with in order to be able to get something that fits what your scene demands of you. I hope this answers the question.